Bethulia was suffocating under the shadow of the Assyrian army. The city's leaders, paralyzed by fear, prepared to surrender. Hope was gone, except in the heart of one woman. Judith, a widow known for her faith, refused to accept defeat. While others saw only doom, she saw a chance for God to act. Judith's love for her people and trust in God burned fiercely. She could not watch her city fall into slavery. She believed that with God, one person could make a difference. Judith had no army, no weapons, only wisdom, courage, and faith. She resolved to act, to become the vessel for a miracle. As her people counted down to surrender, Judith prepared to step into the darkness. She would not wait for a miracle, she would become one. Her journey began where hope had ended. Judith would show that even in the darkest night, faith can shine brighter than any army. The fate of Bethulia would rest on her boldness. In the silence of despair, Judith's faith was about to roar. Holofernes, the Assyrian general, had never known defeat. His army surrounded Bethulia, cutting off water and hope. Inside the city, thirst and fear grew unbearable. The people begged their leaders to surrender, believing God had abandoned them. Uzziah and the elders promised to wait 5 more days for God to act. Then they would give up. This was not faith, but desperation. They had forgotten God's power and set a deadline for a miracle. The city teetered on the edge of surrender, its spirit broken. Leaders faltered, courage vanished, and hope faded. But true heroes are forged in crisis. Bethulia waited for the end, unaware that salvation would come from the most unlikely place. Judith was preparing to change everything. The city's fate hung by a thread. The people looked for rescue from outside, but it would come from within. In the darkest hour, a new kind of hope was rising. The stage was set for a miracle. Bethulia's story was about to be rewritten. Judith heard the leader's ultimatum and was filled with righteous anger. She summoned the elders and confronted them. "Who are you to test God?" she demanded. Judith reminded them, "God is not on our timetable." Their 5-day deadline was not faith, but doubt. She urged them to trust, not surrender. Judith saw the crisis as a test, not a punishment. Her faith was forged in hardship, not comfort. She offered a new path. "I have a plan. Trust me and pray." Judith didn't reveal her intentions, only her resolve. "I am about to do a thing that will be remembered for generations," she declared. The elders were stunned. A widow would do what their army could not. That night, Judith prepared to leave the city. She would walk into the enemy camp, armed only with faith and courage. The leaders could only watch as she stepped into the unknown. Judith's faith would become Bethulia's last hope. Judith prepared for her mission with prayer and purpose. She asked God to use her as an instrument of deliverance. She shed her mourning clothes, dressed in her finest, and transformed herself into a vision of beauty. Her plan to use her appearance as a weapon against Holofernes. With her maid and a bag of kosher food, Judith left the city at night. The elders prayed for her as she walked into enemy territory. The Assyrian guards brought her to Holofernes, who was captivated by her. Judith spun a tale. She had fled Bethulia, knowing it would fall. She promised to help Holofernes conquer the city. Blinded by pride and desire, he believed her every word. Judith's courage and cunning set the trap. The fate of Bethulia now rested on her bold deception. Holofernes, entranced by Judith, invited her to his private banquet. For days, Judith built trust, leaving the camp each night to pray. On the 4th night, Holofernes drank himself into a stupor, dismissing his servants. Alone with the general, Judith saw her moment. She prayed silently for strength. Taking Holofernes' sword, she struck, ending the threat to her people. Judith and her maid placed his head in their food bag. Calmly, they walked out of the camp, the guards none the wiser. They returned to Bethulia before dawn, carrying proof of victory. Judith's faith and courage had turned the tide. The impossible had become reality. One woman had defeated an army. The city's darkest night became its moment of deliverance. Judith's name would never be forgotten. Judith returned to Bethulia, holding Holofernes' head high. The people rejoiced, praising God and Judith's bravery. At dawn, the Israelites attacked, displaying the general's head on the city wall. The Assyrians, leaderless and terrified, fled in chaos. Israel won a miraculous victory and freedom was restored. Judith led the nation in a song of thanksgiving, giving all glory to God. She never sought fame, returning to her quiet life. Her courage brought peace to Israel for years. Judith's story is more than ancient history. It's a lesson in faith and boldness. She proved that God can use anyone, no matter how unlikely. When hope is gone and leaders falter, one person's faith can change everything. Judith's legacy is a call to stand firm, act boldly, and trust in the impossible. Her courage echoes through the ages. She is a true heroine for all who seek to live with faith. Judith's story reminds us, with God, nothing is impossible.